from Washington, Ms. Jayapal, is now recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for being here today. I am here today as the only member of this committee to actually have been on an F1 student visa. When I was 16 years old, my parents sent me by myself with their last $5,000 so that I could get the best education and the most opportunity here in the United States. It was a tremendous sacrifice for them, and we still live on different continents. I spent a good chunk of my life on an alphabet soup of visas. After I graduated from college, I transitioned to a practical training visa and then back to a student visa for graduate school and then to an H-1B visa before eventually obtaining legal permanent resident status or green card through marriage to a U.S. citizen. But my journey to citizenship, like so many other immigrants, was almost thwarted entirely by life. In 1995, I received a 2-year fellowship to go back to my birth country of India. In order to maintain my green card, I had to return to the United States once a year. I carefully planned the timing so that I could return home to the United States for the final trimester of my pregnancy and be within those rules. But then I developed a leak in my amniotic sac that endangered the life of both me and my child. I had an emergency C-section at 26 and a half weeks in India and spent months at my child's bedside in the ICU, praying and doing everything I could for their survival. That also meant I was unable to return to the United States within my year window, and I lost my legal status, even though my husband and now my child were both U.S. citizens. The then Immigration and Naturalization Service was not concerned with the real-life decision I had to make to stay in India for the safety of me and my child when it revoked my legal status, and it was only after enormous advocacy from my family and my fellowship that I was able to get my permanent resident status reinstated and re-enter the country with my family, only to have to start from scratch with my green card and wait another 3 years to get my citizenship. Once I finally became a citizen after 17 years of living in the United States, I desperately wanted to bring my parents here to be with me and their grandchild. But they were elderly, and it was unfair to uproot them from their community, especially with the additional time it would take to join me through family sponsorship. I tell this story because it is really important that we think about how tough our immigration system is to navigate and how families are kept apart and how this story, just like the stories of our witnesses today, are just a few of the many stories that are out there. So, Ms. Matra, thank you for being here today and for sharing your story, one that is all too common and very heartbreaking. Now, I understand that you have aged out of eligibility for an H-4 visa, the visa for spouses and children of H-1B visa holders. Can you just quickly share why that visa was so critical to you and your family?
Thank you for your question, Congresswoman. The H-4, the dependent visa, is the only thing that's kept me and my family together for 21 years. I've been in the United States since I was 4 months old. I've gone to school here. My parents and I have built a life here in our community. So it was really terrifying to think about the fact that once I turned 21, I would lose my H-4 visa, and there was a chance that I couldn't be on the same continent as my parents. And this feeling is still pertinent today. Because I've aged out, I don't know if my applications will be approved. My future is really uncertain. I may have to leave the only place I call home.
Thank you. Mr. Beyer, can someone like Ms. Matra follow all the rules and still lose their H-4 status?
Absolutely. Losing your H-4 status is built into being a dependent of an H-1B worker. As soon as you turn age 21, you can lose your status. And ultimately, this is a component of the immigration system throughout. You can lose your status even if you do everything right. We've seen in recent months how 91,000 spouses who are on an H-4 visa also lose their status and lose their work authorization because of delays at U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. So we already talked about how these delays are impacting individuals, but at the end of the day, many people are losing their status in this country despite following every rule laid out for them in the law.
Thank you. And very quickly, Mr. Yang, in December alone, women accounted for over 85% of jobs lost and Black, Hispanic, and Asian women accounted for all women's jobs lost that month. How does the experience of the H-4 workforce fit into this, and why is it so particularly devastating right now?
Thank you for that question. Very briefly, 95% of H-4 visa holders are women, and at least 98% of them come from Asian countries. And because of some of these bureaucratic delays, as well as the COVID-19 problems, some of them have fallen out of status, and that results in a job loss to get back into the economy. And at the level that they were, they're losing literally a year or 2 years in their ability to be promoted and succeed in the business environment.
Gentlelady's time has expired, and we will now turn to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Roy, for his questions.
Well, I thank the chair. Can you hear me okay, Madam Chair?
Yes, we can.